He kayaks to shore. He saw the huts and some canoes. He paddles up to the beach. Several Sentinelese, apparently their faces were painted yellow, and speaking a language of, quote, high-pitched sounds, rushed out towards him.
Okay.
My name is John, he says. I love you and Jesus loves you.
Okay, let's go straight with English.
It's totally going to work.
English will work.
And the louder it is, the easier it is to understand.
The work of colonizers here.
What do you do if the natives don't understand you? Speak louder.
Oh, wow.
The islanders began to string their bows. He wigs out. He throws the fish he'd brought as gifts at them.
Throws the fish.
You're like, fuck.
Seriously, practice this shit, man.
He panicked. He's on his own. It's only him and the Lord.
It's stressful.
It's him and Jesus is the co-pilot.
Put the fish down gracefully.
No, panics, throws the fish.
Throws the fish at them. You fucking idiot. Stabs someone with a tuna. He's got a swordfish and it's straight through his brain.
Throws the fish, turns around and, quote, paddled like I never have in my life. So basically shits himself, flings fish and fucks off. There are around about 100 uncontacted tribes around the globe.
Yes.
Around about 100.
Point of language, are they okay with the word tribe here?
According to every source I read,
Okay.
they have no opinion because they're uncontacted.
I just wanted to know first.
Oh, some of the sources for this were places like I fucking love science and they would never get it wrong.
Oh, yeah, no, okay.
And the Guardian.
Okay.
So
100 uncontacted.
They call them uncontacted
tribes.
Now, uncontact doesn't mean
Groups of
totally
people.
lost, never heard of them.
Yeah.
But they're very isolationist, comparatively speaking.
More than Uncle Darren, who doesn't come to Christmas.
Yep. Even more so than him,
More
with
so
his 9 tractors, 3 ponies and a dog.
Yeah, okay.
So there are a few, like the bulk of them are in South America. It seems like of the 100-ish,
Oh, we're talking like
90 of them are in South America.
in the Amazon sort of thing? Or
the whole
lot?
lump.
The whole lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a lot in Brazil and around there. Like, so there's one like these, the
No. Here, you're safe. They are not on the internet. They are not checking your pronunciation.
No, but the people who stick up for them would be.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyway, they're from Brazil, Venezuela, and they're on the Yanomami Reserve,
Oh, yeah.
which is huge, 10 million odd hectares, 24 million acres. And the Yanomamo people...
Fenced off or something
I
like
don't
that?
know. I don't think it's fenced because that would probably send bad messages.
Mm-hmm.
But in Brazil, who the fuck knows? What's his name? Bolsonaro, who's like, oh, the Amazon? Log it.
The chopper's on.
Yeah, let's just eat it. So there's heaps of different groups, and the Mochi Hatetema tribe, about 100 people, and they've chosen to not only not interact with people outside, but also other Yanomami tribes within.
Okay. So they've got double boundaries.
They do have double boundaries.
Don't like the distant people, and we don't like the close
We don't
people.
like our own
Don't like our
close
friends, our
kins
neighbours,
either.
don't like anyone.
No, fuck you all.
Right.
And the Yanomamo, I remember, because when I was doing anthropology, like first year anthropology back in the 80s, every week you'd have a lecture and you'd have an ethnographic film, and they're all these classics from the 1950s of English anthropology, and one was the Yanomamo, the fierce people.
Oh, okay. It's not bad. I mean, if you were
It was cool.
if you were choosing what your tribe was known for further around,
Yeah.
fierce is all right because it'd scare people away. You don't want to be known as the wussy people.
This video, I've seen it so many times
we
now.
can take all their gold people, or
bend us over and
they will be good slaves people. That would not be a good. That would not be a good, like in your branding department.
we work for free against our will.
No, not good, not good.
There are aerial photos of this particular subgroup, the Mochi Hatetemna people. 2016 suggests they're not only thriving, they may have expanded. Anyway, so they're probably doing quite well. At least they were in 2016, according to aerial photos. Peru, another one. So Peruvian Amazonian region, home to several uncontacted tribes, including the Nomole, who were for decades considered to be among the last of these non-contacted or rarely contacted folk.
The last, but of 100.
Of 100-ish. Recently, at least in the last few years, they've been. It's been estimated 600 or 800 members of them have started to reach to outsiders. Like they're asking for
Of that particular group.
Yeah, they've just started to go, hey, can we? They turn up at government checkpoints and stuff, and they say, oh, can we have some food and things?
Oh, are they
Don't know
hungry?
if they're desperate. Just that they're like, well, you guys have got
Okay.
Coca-Cola and chocolate. I don't know. That seems to be the way it is.
Yeah. Well, you can
The worst
imagine
shit.
it could be, a group gets to desperation and they're like, got to go to the outside, or
It's just like, you guys have got some cool shit that we don't. Can we have it? Also, the outsiders call them the Masho Piro, which is apparently quite derogatory. Masho means savage in the local dialect. So, but they call themselves the Nomole, which is like the kin or the relationships of the family or something. So those are a couple of the South Americans. There's also some in Papua New Guinea.
Oh, yeah. Yep. No, I thought that.
as late as at least into the 2020s, there may be somewhere around 40 uncontacted tribes.
40,
around there,
wow.
allegedly.
Small-ish country. I mean,
rough as hell though. Like
rough as hell. Like
the country's
a lot of trees and a lot of mountains.
Yeah,
And
it's just it's like
if you were to hide as a group of people, be a good one.
Take fjords and put trees on them and make them tropical. You got Papua New Guinea.
Tropical fjords.
Yeah, it's crazy. So many of these uncontacted ones there basically live hunter-gatherer lifestyles, essentially, and they're pretty unkeen on interacting with the outside world usually. Although there's one group, the Yaifo. So 2017, they generated a lot of buzz because a British explorer decided he'd go and hang out with them, and he went missing.
Oh.
But then 3 weeks later, he turned up all good. But he had lots of little scarrings, ritual things, and he was all, he had a great adventure, etc. Apparently, he was habitually on social media, and he just suddenly went dark, and everyone assumed all the cliche stereotyping. He'd been headhunted and cannibalized. No, he hadn't.
If you're going to make your story, that's the way to do it. Disappear for a while, turn up in a sewer somewhere covered in weird things. That's
The title of the most uncontacted people today, anyway, goes to a mob who live in the Andaman Islands. And if it weren't for let's call it the noteworthy effort of a Christian missionary in 2018, I certainly would never have heard of it.
Welcome to The Wholesome Show, the podcast that will face any peril to bring every human on earth to the whole of science.
Yes, you bloody will.
I'm Will Grant.
I'm Rod Lamberts, and I will face any of it because all must be brought to the science's whole.
No.
All.
No.
So the people of the North Sentinel Island, they live on it's described as being about the size of Manhattan. So it sits between India and Myanmar in the Indian Ocean.
Yep, I got my visuals here.
So the world calls these people on the North Sentinel Islands the Sentinelese, but we have no fucking idea what they call themselves.
No idea.
None.
Oh, yes.
None. They are just called, as far as we're concerned, the Sentinelese.
Yep.
So they're sort of under India's wing, sort of protection, but they're also sovereign.
So India nominally owns that land
or looks after them.
Yeah, okay.
But they are a sovereign people as well.
Yeah, okay. But not represented in the United Nations as far as sovereign people goes.
And look, they don't know that and they don't give a shit.
That's so fucking cool.
Could not give a rat's
That's
ass.
awesome. I love it.
They have some neighbouring islands, still, quite a swim away, but basically zero contact recorded. So they have no physically touching territories, unlike the Peruvian groups, for example. There is no other territory.
Look, if you want to, classic, you want to be isolated, an island.
There's a mob called Survival International, and they look after, particularly, they're interested in these uncontacted folks, etc. They were talking to IFL Science, I fucking love science, and one of the spokespeople said, look, most uncontacted tribes have neighbours that might have some sort of trade or bump into them in the forest.
Yeah.
But these guys literally have no one, so their isolation is unique.
So they're a little bit more, their whole civilization is there, a little bit,
island,
a little bit Easter Islandy, a little bit
Atlantis.
Yes,
definitely Atlantis.
Cut off from the rest of the world.
Yep, unique. They're the only ones who have this setup. And so the world knows almost nothing about how they live, just snippets. So the census in India, 2011, they reckon 15 people live on the island, but the real figure seems to be more, like 100.
15 is not enough.
It's not a civilization.
It's not a civilization.
It's an inbred family of people who
it's
are going.
Darren and his kids and, some weird practices.
And, their sister, brother, husband, uncle.
Island the size of Manhattan could sustain a fair bit more than 15 people.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty lush.
Well, it would be.
Yeah, I reckon it's more like 100-ish, guessing. And so you can't really tell, but so people can go within a few nautical miles of the island legally, and they can look at it, and they have often over the years, and they reckon they live in probably 3 separate groups.
Okay.
They have 2 kinds of housing, either a large communal hut or these sort of temporary makeshift shelters that have no walls, so basically roofs. They appear to be extremely healthy, thriving well as hell. They look proud and strong, and many observers it seems, have noted that there are quite a few children and pregnant women wandering around.
So
it's thriving, it looks like.
I think, pregnant women would clearly be an indicator. Children is clearly an indicator of the success of a group of people.
Yep. And I assume 100-ish is enough to not make them get too inbred, but I don't know.
I thought you need like 400. Yeah, to stop us from dying out.
So they seem to be well. Also, they really want to be left alone. Not like we don't mind, but it's like, fuck off.
No.
Fuck off. So why is one of the questions. And you'll be amazed to hear there's a bit of history to this. For example, 1880, you're going to be shocked. Shocked. This is unprecedented. So British Royal Navy officer Maurice or Morris Portman, he sends a party to make contact with the people. He sends them onto the shore. So apparently they got on the land and the islanders buggered off into the trees. Like they abandoned everything. And the British went, abandoned villages. There's not a lot going on here.
And they didn't smash them?
No, they didn't. They weren't monsters. Of course.
What?
They did capture 6 people because,
Just take a few.
hang on, let's collect a couple.
How many will we need?
An old man, an old woman, and 4 kids. It's probably the ones that were there. They're too slow.
Well, you couldn't get 6 kids. Like, that'd be annoying.
It'll look weird too.
It would look
Criminals.
weird, but it'd be like, fuck, how do we look after these things? Like, at least you get some adults to look after
Tell them off.
Yeah, exactly.
Assuming that's how their society works. Maybe the kids are in charge.
Possibly.
So 6 people, and they took them back to a nearby island that was, had a base on it for the British. So as the quote runs, inevitably they all got very sick. The elderly couple died, and the colonists thought it'd be a brilliant idea to just dump the kids back on the island. Fuck, the oldies died, give the kids back.
Yeah, I know. Look, and yes, probably giving the kids back is good, but
In some ways.
yeah.
Well, look, they gave them gifts as well. Like, here's some children and some trinkets, maybe a pot and a pan, or I don't
Diseased blanket.
a hat with 3 corners.
A hat with 3 corners I'd take, though.
Pretty
Like,
cool.
like no one doesn't like a hat with 3 corners. Like, that is
Whoever doesn't is a monster. So yeah, they gave the kids back. They gave them some gifts, and the suspicion, pretty strong one, is they probably gave them a disease or 2, sniffles, whatever. But they're still there. This was in 1880, and they're definitely still there. Flash forward, 1967. Former regional head of India's Ministry of Tribal Affairs. He's an anthropologist, T.M. Pandit. He did his first expedition to the North Sentinel Island in 67, and he'd had a long ongoing kind of relationship with the island, if not the people. He'd been a part of it. So initially the Sentinelese, they'd hide in the jungle. They were like, oh, fuck, people are coming or even getting near us. And then they went, oh, hang on a minute, let's shoot them with arrows. Like, I'm sick of hiding, let's boop. And he said, look, anthropologists would bring selections of items with them to try and entice them, as is, time immemorial. Here's a pan or a hat or a bead or,
let's see what might be useful to them.
Live frogs, see what you're into. And the quote, he did an interview, this guy, back 2018, he did an interview with BBC, and he said, look, we had brought in gifts of pots, pans, large quantities of coconuts, iron tools like hammers and long knives. We also had taken along 3 Onge men who are from a different island nearby to help us interpret the Sentinelese speech and behaviours. It didn't really help. The Sentinelese warriors faced us with angry and grim faces and fully armed with their longbows and arrows set to defend their land. So they're like, yeah, cool, whatever, feck off.
Yeah.
They didn't have much success, but they would still leave these gifts behind and try and cajole, Dances with Wolves style eventually.
Yeah.
2 socks will hang out with
you
them.
leave the gifts.
Yep.
Like the point is an offering, an opening.
So at one point the sources vary. There were 1 or 2 pigs tied up and left as a gift.
Pigs.
And so the islanders went, fuck that, killed them and buried them. No, we're not interested. We don't know what it is and we don't want it.
Hadn't seen pigs before.
Or we know what it is, but we don't care because it came from you and get fucked.
Yeah, it could be.
So 67, into the 70s.
How do they know that though?
I don't know. That they died?
No, as
they've seen animals.
No. How do we know that they killed them and buried them?
On the beach, I think they literally killed them where they stood.
Jesus, okay.
Like, oh, that's not from here, but bury it.
Yeah.
I don't have 100% proof of that, but that was the impression I got. Moving into the 70s, they set up a policy. The Indian government set up a policy to try and make contact with the Sentinelese with the ultimate goal of teaching them agriculture and forcibly settling them into their society.
Okay, cool.
For your own good,
yeah,
the Indians had great mentors in being colonial monsters.
They had recent experience with
very strong experience.
So obviously they would know how to do it better.
And they definitely embraced it quite heavily.
Oh.
So they'd send boats, offer gifts to the tribe. The Sentinelese largely said no, and they basically...
They didn't go in and say, you too could be a farm worker, be part of the industrial machine?
Yeah, would you like
a factory job?
Do you want things that you can't make or find yourself and then become
Or how about
indebted?
a despondent urban life where you just consume things and then you work until you get sick and tired and die?
Yeah, in your own poo.
Yeah, could we offer that to them?
Yeah, you can have that if you want.
That'd be nice.
In fact, we're going to encourage you into it. Yeah, they were rebuked, basically, with arrows. Fuck off, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off.
Yep.
So apparently a breakthrough came in 1991. The tribe came out to peacefully approach T.M. Pandit and his people. They approached them in the ocean, so they went out into the ocean to meet them.
Halfway. Nice.
Yep. And Pandit says in this interview with the BBC again, we were puzzled why they allowed us. It was their decision to meet us, and the meeting took place on their terms. So we jumped out of the boat, stood in neck-deep water.
See, it's more dignified if you're sort of at your hips. You know, you're sort of wading. Like your ankles, it's like, okay, but neck deep. Neck deep is great. Neck deep is a great place to have a conversation.
That's our terms.
I hope there's some shorter people that are like treading water hard during this negotiation.
Or low tide and not turning at the time, maybe at calm waters. They were distributing in this neck-deep water coconuts and other things, but they weren't allowed to actually come onto the island.
Okay.
But they were allowed that far. They actually met them and...
It's just slightly opening.
Yeah, it's like, all right, we'll meet you out there. And look, Pandit says, look, he wasn't particularly worried, but they stayed on alert about being attacked. He says they were talking among themselves, but we couldn't understand their language. It sounded similar to languages spoken by other tribal groups in the area, but not the same.
Yeah.
And he says their team tried to communicate with them in some kind of sign language, but that didn't fly. So then it moves on to a memorable exchange, as he put it, where I was giving away coconuts. I got a bit separated from the rest of my team and started to get a bit closer to shore. A young Sentinel boy made a funny face, took his knife and signalled to me, I gather like this, that he would cut his head off. I immediately called for the boat and I made a quick retreat.
Yeah, no, thanks all. That's as far as we need to go today.
That's a boy. That's what a kid says. Wait till my dad gets here.
Yeah.
So he goes on to say, the gesture of the boy is significant. He made it clear I was not welcome.
So maybe the kids were in charge.
That's the twist. It's coming.
Kid-based dictatorship.
Yeah, it's Lord of the Flies, but there are still adults. So no one knows why the Sentinelese first said, fuck you, and then went, okay, maybe we'll hang with you, and now we changed our minds again. Wasn't clear if anyone was dying of diseases. Like, it just wasn't clear. They just decided to turn it around again. So in the late 1990s, Indigenous rights groups started to protest the Indian government, and they basically said, we're not going to try and make contact with them anymore.
So the Indian government said,
all right, we'll leave
listen to the protest and said, all right,
leave them alone.
Good.
Just leave them alone.
Good, thank you.
And the Sentinelese since then have continued to express hostilities to the outside world. 2006, two Indian fishermen, they'd been out poaching in the waters around the island.
Okay, so they're fishing, but they've stretched into the territorial.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah, okay.
They probably got shit-faced drunk, so they moored their boat.
That is colonisation precedent, though,
isn't it? Get smashed and do something dumb. Encroach.
It is learning from the British. It really is.
Get trashed.
Yeah.
Don't anchor
Step
your boat
over the
properly.
Line and then defend that line that you took while you were drunk. Oh, Jesus.
So the boat drifted, so I don't think they anchored well, and it actually hit the island. So they were killed. End of that.
So, well, at least we're establishing some idea of the policy here.
There are boundaries.
There is a boundary here.
So it's 2006. 2014. So there was a mega tsunami in December of that year.
I was wondering. I didn't want to jump ahead, but the tsunami went all the way through that
whole area. The Indian Coast Guard went, let's just fly over and see if they're okay. So as they were flying over, a single dude comes out and just starts shooting arrows at the helicopter again.
Look,
fuck off.
It's a sign.
Yeah, they're fine. It's not clear whether he knew what they were or whatever. But one thing he knew for sure is not us. Fuck off.
Yeah.
So despite all this, Pandit again, the former head of the region for the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, he said in this interview, from his experience, the group are largely peace-loving and he believes their fearsome reputation is unfair. He went on to say, look, during our interactions, they threatened us, but it never reached a point where they went on to wound or kill anyone. So they were a bit like...
Well, anyone firing your bow and arrow straight at the head first shot, like it's
not a threat. That's not a threat.
It's not. It's going to cause trouble that you don't need. And it's just, first let's show that we have a bow and arrow, and then show that we can fire it, and then show that we're accurate if we want, and then
wound.
You gradually step up. You don't go straight for the eye.
It's not like what happened. They killed Steve. I think it was a threat. I think they were trying to tell us something.
I mean, you could ask them. You could say, who do you care about the least? And then we'll just...
All of you. We are nothing if not egalitarian. And he basically goes on to say, look, whenever they got agitated, we'd just back off.
Good.
We're up to speed now on the Sentinelese and outsider interactions. But what about the missionary fella I mentioned at the top?
Yeah, see, I was worried about him.
John Chau. He grew up in Vancouver, Washington, not Vancouver, Canada. His family were members of the Assemblies of God.
Oh.
So they're Pentecostal.
Yep.
Members believe things like the Bible is, divinely inspired, infallible, authoritative.
There are many Christians that believe the Bible is divinely inspired. Like that's not an uncommon thing.
I'm saying, but they're like, it's not only divinely inspired, but it is the infallible rule of all things. The Bible is the thing. It's perfect. Okay. Came out perfect straight from God's bum to man's mouth. And
God doesn't have a bum.
But we're in God's image. If I'm in God's image and I have a bum.
He's a being made of light.
Ergo. God has a bum.
God does not do poos.
I didn't say it poos.
Well, why do you have a bum then?
Why'd you make it weird? To sit on. I didn't say butthole. I said bum. Look, you go straight to the dirty.
You said come out of effluent. Come out of God's bum.
Straight to effluent.
I do hope God shits. Like if there's a God, I hope it's God that shits.
And it smells like fairy floss.
No, it's
texture of caviar.
No, it's like the worst.
Fucking horrible. Like smells like fairy floss. Texture of caviar.
No, see, I was going with because God's getting rid of it. It's purely satanic. Like it is going like.
He poos straight into hell.
Yeah, exactly.
So hell is God's toilet.
Probably.
That makes sense.
I think that's what he designed.
Stranger Things was suggesting that. The Assemblies of God also are known. They're speaking in tongue folk, which I think is cool. If you're going to have a deep religion, do the and do that speaking in tongues thing. I think it's fucking awesome.
You'd be in for that.
Fuck yeah, I would. I reckon that's awesome.
You'd sitting in church. You'd be like,
that's the fun part.
Can we do the accents? I got a good one.
So yeah, family Assemblies of God, or so it would seem. He went to I call it an intimate boutique Christian high school. 90 students across all 7 grades. Mm-hmm. The quote: as a child, he was consumed by 2 passions that became increasingly entwined. Oh. Outdoor adventure.
Not a terrible thing.
And Jesus Christ.
Again, not a terrible thing.
So he was apparently very enthusiastic about the extracurriculars, and that's not a euphemism, like actual extracurricular activities. So he loved hiking, camping, travel. He meticulously documented his journeys and adventures in social media. So he's a modern guy, gets out there and does stuff, wants everyone to see and know. He was very into a Pentecostal scouting organization called the Royal Rangers. And he attained a gold medal of achievement, which is apparently equivalent to an Eagle Scout, which I have no fucking idea except
Eagle
from
Scout's
TV.
The top.
Yeah, it means you're a very good American scout. He liked to post quotes on Facebook by a dude called Jim Elliot, who was one of 5 missionaries killed by a tribe in Ecuador in 1956. So he admired this guy's zeal. During high school, he went on trips, including a missionary trip to Mexico, and he came back kind of psyched up. Quotes from him: we can't be lukewarm. We need to know how to defend our faith.
Yeah, defend.
It's always defend.
Defend is not the same.
It's always battle.
Yeah.
I mean, for many religions, but I don't know much about others. I know a bit about Christianity, and there's always this fucking defense battle thing.
Just for me, this slipping between defending your own, fine. You're in an argument, you're like, I believe this, and someone else says you whatever, fine. Versus going out and converting new people, that's not defending.
That's not defense. I'm going to go out and defend at you. It's like I was just sitting here having a cigarette and a sandwich, and you started shouting at me.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, this isn't defense right now, champ. He goes on. When we go out into our world, there are people that'll just come and oppose us, and they'll have questions and they'll have arguments. We can't just go out there unprepared. We need to know what we believe and why we believe it. So he's strong. He's strong in his strong in his position.
It's not a dumb thing for any person in a religion to know what they believe and know why they believe it.
Or just a person in general, what you believe and why. While I was at high school, he was also exposed to a missionary database called the Joshua Project. That's where he found out about the Sentinelese.
Oh, did it have targets?
Yeah. We just had, we call it information.
Places where we haven't been successful yet, where we haven't defended our patch yet. Future defense projects.
Yes, let's go out and proactively defend non-attacked things. I'm not punching you out and stealing from you. I'm defending myself.
In the future defense, defending my future self.
Proactive defense. So the database said the Sentinelese were extremely isolated, noted that the Indian government banned all access to the North Sentinel Island and therefore
could listen to them.
Yep. Then went on to suggest praying for the Indian government to allow Christians to, quote, earn the trust of the Sentinelese people and also, quote, live among them. It went on to assert, this is the Joshua Project database, that the Sentinelese, quote again, need to know that the Creator God exists and that He loves them and paid the price for their sins. They need to know that.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. I'm just going back to not everyone needs to come to the whole of science. Not everyone needs to come to other things as well.
Oh, other things I agree. The whole of science. Get here. So after high school, Chau goes to Oral Roberts University. Oral Roberts, the famous evangelist. I love his name is Oral.
It's great.
O-R-A-L. We're not fucking around. So he goes to Oral Roberts University, which is super conservative. It forbids smoking, drinking, swearing, any kind of sexual relations outside of heterosexual marriage. The standard. Yeah, just like our university.
Yeah. I get that you can have an idea of God that says don't root until you're married because rooting's the special thing. That's the making of the babies.
Yep.
It's just the idea that God is concerned about swearing.
But when you root, you must have babies.
Well, I get it.
Swearing, yeah. You said poo-poo wee-wee.
I don't think God would be troubled.
Eternal damnation.
Like you made a whole universe and someone makes a sound that
in an arbitrary sound in an arbitrary language that is arbitrarily good or bad.
Like is God really regretting that he invented swear words?
Anyway, Chau was really into this. He loved the university. He loved their morals and their attitudes. He was also described by people as being very easy to connect with as a person. So, kind of charming, charismatic. He preferred one-on-one conversations rather than large group interactions. He was also good-looking and received a fair share of female attention, but he was very humble. I mean, and look, there's nothing I read that suggests that he seemed like a decent guy. Like he didn't sound like a terrible human. His morals and mind.
A bit of past tense in this sentence.
Well, this is when he was at uni. He's not at uni anymore. 2014, he graduates. He's seriously focused on prepping for and going on Christian-focused missions in general, but particularly in the back of his mind, the Sentinel Island, the North Sentinel Island. This is his thing, that Joshua Project database is like Sentinel Islands, man. So after graduating, he goes to Kurdistan to do outreach with refugees, goes to Israel on a sponsored trip by a very right-wing Christian organization. He went to a national outdoor leadership school course, trained as an emergency medical technician, spent 3 summers at Whiskey Town National Recreation Area in California, Whiskey Town.
That sounds like a place that the Christians could proselytize.
I can't believe you'd be allowed to go there.
Like that should be on the Joshua Project as well.
Whiskey Town.
Number 1, Sentinelese. Number 2, Whiskey Town. We're going to conquer Whiskey Town and stop them.
Bitches. What are they into? They're into towns. So it's a recreation area in California, and he worked as a ranger and emergency nurse, and he lived alone in a small cabin. So 3 summers. As a young man, he post-uni, but young fella.
Well, that's going to keep you from breaking the bounds of celibacy.
What's the word? Onanism.
Oh, okay, that's a problem too.
His adventures, he had some adventures while he was doing this. He once got lost. He went on a 14-day trek with a couple of buddies, got lost, and to get back on course, they had to climb down a frozen waterfall to somehow find their way back to civilization, which is cool. Very kind of Shackleton, very cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very cool. Another time he almost died because of, quote, a gnarly bite from a rattlesnake.
Mm.
And apparently he went quite down before he went up again. So, he had some adventures. He had some things happen. He learned some things. Like, not terrible. The emergency medical technician thing, the outdoor education, again.
No, they're cool. They're cool.
Nothing about him sounds terrible.
Look, it's a great motivating force to get you to go and see the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Going and seeing the rest of the world, you can just do anyway.
No, you must do it without fornication, smoking, swearing, etc. He documented all the adventures, so he was very social media savvy and active, so he ended up racking up a huge following, and a beef jerky company said, we'd like to sponsor you as an influencer.
Sure.
It's the obvious thing. You seem Christian and holy. How about beef jerky?
But he's a beef jerky guy? Does he suddenly have to start eating beef jerky when he doesn't like it?
I assume he ate it the whole time.
I don't know.
Did God say anything? Did the Bible say anything about the beef jerkies?
No, God would have had like a beef jerky animal ready to go.
Good jerky's delicious. Anyway, so a company wanted to sponsor him as an influencer. During this time, as he was doing all this training and learning and service, he eschewed romantic liaisons.
Of course.
And, of course, a full-time career because he had to stay focused on his Sentinelese mission.
Yeah.
And it would be unfair to the career and to the loved one.
It wouldn't be any good,
No, because there are risks.
No, Dolores, we can't buy
There are risks, yeah. So time for the real mission. 2015 and 16, he did 4 separate trips to the Andaman Islands, but not to North Sentinel Island, so to other islands around it. And he worked up a pretty decent network of local Christian folk in the area. 2017, he went on a boot camp run by All Nations, which is an organization out of Kansas City that works to see Jesus worshipped by every tongue, tribe, and nation.
Oh, but not everyone in every nation?
Every tongue. I
Did
don't know if that means language or actual individuals. Probably both.
I'm sure that's their high goal. Stretch goal is everyone everywhere.
Everyone everywhere.
And the low goal is someone in every language.
But I don't think they would admit out loud to the low goal.
No, but it depends who you're talking to. Low goal is your public goal.
Yeah, that's true.
No, we're not trying to get everyone.
Oh, no.
Internally, fucking everyone.
We'd like some people somewhere.
Could you leave me alone?
They like to also, the all nations folk, like to inculcate a wartime mentality.
Great.
In true believers and coach them to, quote, make strategic decisions in the battle we're waging against a real enemy. Obviously, that is shaitan.
Yes, well, of course.
So that was 2017. 2018, October, he's psyched. He's ready to rock. It's time to go and, quote, bring Christ to Satan's last stronghold.
Could you not call them Satan's last stronghold?
Many sources, that's the quote. The Sentinelese people are...
Couldn't you say they're neutral to this point?
Satan's last stronghold.
Oh, fucking hell.
He's not saying they're evil. He's saying
surely,
they're in the thrall of evil.
Surely he's from, certain part of America. Don't you look at New York as like Babylon and it's like,
but these guys don't even know.
Fornicating with outside marriage.
I know, like you sit on the subway and people be fucking unmarried folks.
Exactly. Surely that is Satan's stronghold. And that's a stronger hold than some island.
Because at least there is the presence of Jesus in New York.
Oh, okay. So the people know. These people don't even know.
Don't even know what they don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Chau travels to Port Blair, which is a capital in the regional capital of the Andaman Islands. He goes into a self-imposed 11-day quarantine in which he went without direct sunlight. I don't know why. Like a vampire.
No, that's weird. That's
from
weird.
The Buffy universe.
I get not catch a cold right before you go. That's a good thing, buddy. I'm like you.
Agree. 11-day quarantine is a nice thing to do.
It absolutely is. If you're drilling yourself down into the frozen lake under Antarctica, don't get yourself a cold before you get in there.
Do not. No direct sunlight for reasons unknown. Right. Prayer and exercise, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's how you do a quarantine.
And he read the lives of the three Mrs. Judsons. Oh. It's a chronicle of 19th century missionary journaling of some description, so something missionary-esque. Of course, to go to the North Sentinel Islands or go anywhere near them, you need official permission. So he didn't get that, because why would you? I don't recognize your authority. I respond to a higher one.
But I get it. He's like, he wouldn't have got it. Ask for forgiveness, not for permission, because you're not getting permission. And once you've asked,
no way in shit they would have said yes.
You can't ask for forgiveness.
Yeah, no way in shit they would have said yes. So instead, he paid some of the local Christian fishermen. So I assume part of the network he'd made earlier.
Which of you fishermen is a godly fisherman?
Yo, Christians!
Like, did you just go out to the port and say,
looking for Christians with a boat? My impression is he probably already knew them because his previous trips. Yeah. He paid them 25,000 rupees, so the equivalent of about $500 Australian, 300 and a bit American, to sneak him near the island.
Get me across the line.
Yep.
Into neck deep water or?
14th of November. So they sneak past Coast Guard boats. They get to the North Sentinel Island late at night and they anchor.
Are there boats like sort of defending this perimeter all the time?
I assume they're around. I don't think they'd kind of cordon them off, but there are cruising folk.
Just to keep an eye on people that are doing this kind of thing?
Well, everything, that whole region, all those waters are under control or observation. So 14th of November, late at night, they anchor nearish the island. 15th of November, next day, makes his first approach. The fisherman would not go any closer to the island, so he strips down to his underwear because he thought it would make the Sentinelese more at ease with him if he's just in his knickers.
It is a great way to meet people.
Ren and Stimpy boxer shorts.
Was it really?
No. So then in his undies, he kayaks towards the shore. Quotes are, he saw a hut and some dugout canoes.
Did he choose his undies? Like, were you like, this is my meat and undies?
My meat and undies?
No, like my meat and people undies. Like, when
this is my fancy pants.
You look at your undies drawer and you got like,
one hole, five holes.
This is your it's date night tonight, or I've got a big job interview. I'll put my lucky undies on, or there's your meeting new folk undies.
Do you have lucky undies? Are you wearing them now?
You're meeting a new people. You got to choose your outfit, and it's a lot of pressure to put just straight on
the right undies.
All of the undies.
The right undies.
Well, you're not putting your raggiest undie on.
Maybe that's more respectful and relaxing.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
It's
a
true.
lot of pressure to put on your undies.
And so in those precious undies, he kayaks to shore. He saw the huts and some canoes. He paddles up to the beach. Several Sentinelese, apparently their faces were painted yellow and speaking a language of, quote, high-pitched sounds, rushed out towards him.
Okay.
My name is John, he says. I love you and Jesus loves you.
Okay, let's go straight with English.
That's totally going to work.
English will work.
And the louder it is, the easier it is to understand.
Look, it's the work of colonizers here.
It's true. What do you do if the natives don't understand you? Speak louder.
Oh, wow.
The islanders began to string their bows. He wigs out. He throws the fish he'd brought as gifts at them.
Throws the fish.
You're like, fuck.
No, seriously, practice this shit, man.
He panics.
Like, don't.
He's on his own. It's only him and the Lord.
It's stressful.
It's him and Jesus is the co-pilot.
Put the fish down gracefully.
No, panics, throws the fish.
Throws the fish at them. You fucking idiot. Stabs someone with a tuna. He's got a swordfish and it's straight through his brain.
Throws the fish, turns around and, quote, paddled like I never have in my life. So basically shits himself, flings fish and fucks off.
Well, I'm kind of glad, but
yeah. Smart.
Just rehearse a little bit.
He did.
Think about how it might go.
This was a rehearsal. Later that same day, he says, I'm going to go back.
Yeah, of course. Like you've paid the guy $500.
So he lays out more gifts.
Oh, he's laying them out this time.
Yeah. He heads towards a hut, but he stays out of arrow range. About half a dozen or so of the Sentinelese emerge and began to, quote, whoop and shout. He walks closer, trying to hear what they're saying. He tried to, this is my favourite quote probably of this whole story, he tried to parrot their words back to them.
No.
And that's what happens when someone speaks a language you don't understand. You go, oh, hang on, I think I got it. Say it again. Jibbity jobbity boo boo.
It is nice seeing colonization brought down to the one person.
Fuck me.
Like, you know that this is the same person who did it in 1600, who did it in 1200,
like, in 900.
all the way back, exactly the same. Oh, maybe if I just...
What if I just make similar sounds? Fucking idiot. Thinking that that's your go-to. Oh, this sounds like what they're saying.
It's not possible to not be racist in that moment.
It's not.
You're going, what am I hearing?
Do you know what's definitely also not possible? Ever to make sense. Like ever. So he does that. He parrots the words back. Apparently the Sentinelese burst out laughing.
Oh, okay. That's a good reaction.
He reckons they were probably saying bad words or insulting me. So he reckons they were like goading him into repeating terrible things. Bullshit.
Okay.
Even if they were, it doesn't matter. You were just making noises.
I gotta say, laughter is a much better reaction than the other options here.
Than stabbing in the tum-tum.
Yeah.
He does the obvious thing next.
What is the obvious thing?
He starts singing worship songs and preaching from Genesis. Duh. That's your go-to, right?
Well, you're being judged by God, so you might as well.
So this singing of songs and preaching from Genesis caused them to pause for a moment. They kind of went,
what the fuck's he doing?
The fuck?
It's like Guardians of the Galaxy.
It is. They kind of went, he's doing the thing, and they were like, huh? Then a boy shot an arrow at him. The arrow hit his waterproof Bible.
Oh, you know.
That is one of those lucky ones. It was my lucky cigarette case. That's why I didn't die.
In missionary shops, there is the waterproof Bible.
That is also arrow-proof.
I don't know why. You know, if you're buying, a waterproof, but why not buy one that is like fully chest-sized? And like,
well, you're not expecting it to also need to be projectile-proof.
No, that's the point. That's the point. You're going to get shot in a Bible like Teddy Roosevelt.
Shot in the Bible. So it hit the Bible. He pulls the arrow out, gives it back to the boy, which is pretty fucking cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, that's classy. Then he buggers off again. But when he goes back to try and find his kayak, they'd taken his boat. So he had to swim a mile or more, which is 9,000 kilometers.
1.6.
Yeah, back to the fishing boat. That night, he's in the fishing boat and he writes in his diary, I'm scared. I'm watching the sunset and it's beautiful.
Don't make me empathize with him.
No, I'm going to.
Oh.
He then said he was crying a bit, wondering if it'll be the last sunset I see before being in the place where the sun never sets.
Oh.
He wrote to his family.
Colonization is hard. It's
not easy, right?
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot to
woe is me.
Put yourself into that position. To his family, he writes, you guys might think I'm crazy in all this, but I think it's worth it to declare Jesus to these people. He didn't want to die, but he accepted that he could.
Why didn't he just throw a Bible at them and run away? Doesn't that count? Doesn't that count?
Smash.
Get a waterproof one.
So he says, look, I don't want to die, but I accept I could. And he says here, I think I could be more useful if alive, but to you, God, I give all the glory of whatever happens.
Yeah.
He asks God to forgive any of the people on the island who try to kill me, especially if they succeed. Next day, he gets the fisherman to drop him off alone because he thought it'd be less threatening to the islanders if there was only him. Well, but also, if things went, quote, badly, it would spare the fisherman from having to, quote again, bear witness to my death.
So the fisherman is coming in a bit closer this time?
Yeah, it seems like it, but it's still, a distance. So just before dawn, he starts, plopping in towards the shore. He knew the risks, but he says, quote, the people of the North Sentinel were damned and he was determined to save them. So they killed him. Chau died.
Oh.
That was it. He died. That was the end of it. He didn't make it, which is why this story came to my attention.
So was he on the island 3 times?
2 and a bit.
No, but third time's the charm.
It was a charm. He got to go to God.
So he threw the fish the first time.
Yep.
Second time
got shot in the Bible.
Second time he sang a song, got shot in the Bible.
Third time
we know no more because he died.
Moved on to glory.
Well, but you can imagine the government on this island, whatever's made up of kids or the grown-ups.
Could be both.
Could say, look, first time, he's an idiot. Second time.
We're a bit annoyed.
Fuck buddy. Third time, fuck this.
Kill this cunt.
Sorry, it's not happening anymore.
Other people got killed immediately, so he actually got quite a bit of leeway.
Well, he had a fish.
A bunch of fish. High velocity fish, but fish nonetheless. So the Indian government, they're very protective of the Sentinelese and they respect the wishes to be left alone. They do now. There are laws which even forbid taking photographs or making videos of them and some of the other tribes around these islands.
Good.
The Indian police charged the fisherman who took Chau to the island.
Good. Sorry, buddies. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you. You did a bad thing.
Yep.
And you knew it was illegal. Of course, they can't charge any of the tribes people because the island has sovereignty and also, what the fuck are you talking about? So Pandit, TM Pandit, the dude who was in charge.
Went back in the 60s?
Yep. He was interviewed again in the BBC 2018, just after this death. He said, look, the Sentinelese are a peace-loving people. They don't seek to attack people. They don't visit nearby areas and cause trouble, which I think is an important one. They don't go out and fuck with people.
No, it'd be a different world. Yep. Different world.
They hang out where they are.
Yeah.
And he said, this is a rare incident. And it is. We are the aggressors here, he told the Indian paper. We are the ones who try to enter their territory. Now, about Chau, he says, look, I feel very sad for the death of this young man, but he made a mistake. He had enough chance to save himself, but he persisted and paid with his life. And it's true. He had chances. He was given 2 shots.
Yeah.
And he said, fuck it, I'm going to go in anyway for the Lord. Chau's family chimed in and said they forgive the people responsible for his death. We forgive those reportedly responsible, they wrote in a statement on Instagram, the obvious, the place of mourning.
Well, that's what God reads.
People. It's what God.
He's not on Twitter anymore
because
he doesn't like it since Elon Musk.
He hates X. X is the devil's
and so he had to go back to Instagram.
They go on. He ventured out on his own free will and his local contacts need not to be prosecuted for his own actions. So basically you did it, champ.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, that's the only decent thing you can say at that point.
It's civilized. And the main source for the Chau part of this, which is a Guardian article, they say they report on a lot of very strongly worded and very varied opinions about what Chau did and what he deserved or didn't. His parents basically, they were very forgiving of the son's killer. They sounded pretty damn fucked off with the church though. His parents were like, this church or these churches manipulate and mess with the minds of these young people. They go out and do stupid things and get themselves fucking killed. Least or most uncontacted tribe or group of people in the world today.
I've heard of them in the past, and I've always been fascinated. I think it's a lovely story of a tribe. Potentially it's internal ideological reasons, but whatever. To go, no, this is how we live, and we keep up a boundary. Leave us alone, and you know what? Fucking leave them alone.
I agree. Do what you want, and that the really magical point for me is that Pandit guy saying, they never go beyond their boundaries. And they don't mess with anyone.
But this is a perfect analogy for this Steve guy. They're tending to their own patch.
Yeah.
Tend to your own patch.
Yeah, leave it alone.
Be the perfect person in your belief system.
Satan's last stronghold.
Don't go and tell other people that they're wrong.
Oh, look, look, I know there are people in many religions involved in many religions around the world and they're fine, but this version of it is culpable. absolutely culpable. Like these people encouraging and actually funding such folk to go out and do this. It's terrible. It's terrible. Don't do that. Leave people alone.
Yeah, I totally. I think it's one of the most bullshit aspects of religion is the whole you've got to make other people believe. No.
Get over yourself.
Yeah, if the argument is good enough, then it works for you, and surely God would be like, my argument is good enough, and if you believe it, then you win.
And if you don't, that's cool.
Well, you go to hell, but fine. But you don't have to go out and make sure people know about it.
Leave people the fuck alone.
Leave them alone.